Hello, I'm Pastor Hilly. Thank you for joining me for Faith Lutheran Church's Adult Forum series. We're calling this episode, The Show Goes On. But before we get to our special guest this week, a brief reminder that during this time of social distancing, there is wonderful ministry coming out of the community that we call Faith Lutheran Church here in Whitehall, Ohio. Ministry that includes this very podcast. If you'd like to support the ministry of faith financially, please find the link labeled Giving in the description below. And now, on to our episode. Joining me today is the founder of Marionette Management based in New England and one of my dearest friends, Jessica Kellogg Martin. How are you, Jess? It's great to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm pretty good. How are you?
Oh, the life in the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
This is, it is what it is. How's it treating your family?
It's good. We've got a full house here. I have 3 young sons and 2 of which are in school, and we're doing full remote learning. So I spend the first part of my day doing some settling them into school, and then I do some work, and then my husband's working from home, and he's a union organizer for healthcare workers who work in nursing homes. So he's having, this is hitting his work particularly hard. So he's upstairs in our house. I'm downstairs working out of my office / now playroom remote learning center, and we're just making it all happen while having a 3-year-old who's potty training. Just super easy stuff, really easy.
Did I ever tell you my favorite potty training story? This has nothing to do with anything, but you may appreciate it.
Hit me.
My nephew is 6, I believe. Anyway, so I was visiting my brother and his wife and the fam down in the Raleigh area, and I don't have kids. I don't know anything about kid TV or anything like that. But to potty train the kid, they took a piece of paper and drew a grid on it, and my brother wrote Paw Patrol on the top of it. And every time my nephew would go to the restroom, he'd give him a Paw Patrol sticker, and he would stick it on this grid. And so that was my only interaction with it, and like my brother trying to potty train with it. So then I was talking to some friends. I think I was still in Connecticut, and one of them said, "Oh, my daughter, I got to go get her some Paw Patrol stuff." And I go, "Oh, are you potty training her too?" And she stopped and looks at me. She goes, "What do you think Paw Patrol is?" I was like, "It's a tool for potty training, right?" She's like, "You don't have kids, do you?" I was like, "I do not."
It is a massively popular show amongst the kids. We've gotten out of it, but we had a really hardcore time of it in here. We've moved on to the other shows, but it's huge. But I will say you do have to use whatever tools available, whatever bribery methods available when potty training. It's a very big thing. So if stickers of some cop dogs is going to help your nephew potty train, so be it. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Because
go in the backyard.
Yes, you can go in the backyard.
Where's that?
Upstairs in a Zoom meeting. Can you close it? Thank you.
That's COVID life, right?
It sure is. It sure is. Even though I say, if the door's closed, just don't come in because I'm in a meeting. They're like, cool. Hey, Mom, the door was closed. We just have to talk to you for a minute. Anyway.
No worries. So, Jess, you and I first met, and I want to say it was 2004. It was Little Brother's show. And because I had seen you. Wait, say what?
I said Little Brothers being a venue for the viewers at home who aren't familiar with it.
I'm sorry, Little Brothers, it was probably 200-person club here in Columbus, Ohio. Just always an amazing time. And at the time, you were tour managing Stephen Kellogg and the Sixers. And over the past 16 years, your career path has developed into founding Marionette Management and just doing so many different things. I guess the best place to start is, can you tell us a little bit about your company and what it looked like to be an artist manager, tour manager let's start in a pre-COVID world, and then we can talk about how the pandemic's changed.
Okay, cool. Yes, I can. So pre-pandemic, pre-COVID days, I spent all of my 20s as a tour manager mainly for Stephen Kellogg, but also for other acts too. I was involved in working with Wilco's team on running their festivals. I did some work with Dispatch, Pat McGee, and a handful of other artists. I would do random tours here and there, mainly for Stephen Kellogg, though. You're right about that. And I would be on the road traveling with them. So there'd be, years where I would spend over 250 days gone. I was a very good roommate because I would basically just be a rent check that would get sent home and I wouldn't really be there. So those were my 20s. And then when I turned 30, I had which was 2012, I had my first kid and wasn't able to tour anymore. It's not, you can't, I couldn't leave him home. I had to take care of him. So that led me to found Marionette Management which is like a full service boutique management company. So instead of doing the logistics on the ground, it's more of a 30,000 foot role where I help the artists. We do big picture stuff. We go after, what are your goals? What are you doing? What do we want to do for the next 12 months, 18 months? When are we going to put out a record? When are we going to tour? When are we going to make the record? Do you want to write a book? Let's get you some merch. Like all the things that they want to do in their career. You're going to write for other people. You're going to write for yourself. You're going to, do these trips, all that stuff. I also manage producers. They're people who make records with people. So they're the ones in the studio kind of helping control the artistic arc and sounds of a record. So I have 3 of those on my roster and 2 touring clients. And I also have a staff. I have a full-time employee and some interns, and they help do all the day-to-day stuff, run the social media for our roster. So I made that transition though about 6 years ago. And I've been doing that full-time since then. And it's a different role, but it's all within the same family of this sort of like mid-level artist that I really love. I feel like there's this kind of untapped, I think not a lot of people are familiar with the fact that there is this entire section of the music industry that are not household names, not artists that everyone has heard of, but who make very good living for themselves and their companies and their touring staff and all that, that most people have never heard of. And right. That's kind of where I like that independent artist who has creative control over what they're doing, and good work ethic, good vision. Like that's what's attractive to me about doing the managing. Not that there's anything wrong with, making millions of dollars and working with massive artists. It's just not where it's not where I am, but it's not the people I know. It's not that's not what gets me out of bed in the morning. What gets me out of bed in the morning is taking some cool art and making sure it reaches the people it's made for. That's kind of like what I like about what I do. And there's plenty of artists on this mid-level that help pay, for me and my staff.
Yeah. I remember I was listening to a Jason Isbell interview, and he was talking about they were on the road and they were at a hotel and the whole band's on one bus and they pull up and he goes, I can't tell you how many times I've walked in a hotel and somebody's walked up not knowing who I am and, hey, who is that on tour? And he goes, oh, Jason Isbell. And the guy's like, oh, I've never heard of that. And he goes, my response is, if they're staying at a hotel and they only have one bus, you've probably never heard of them. But again, that just points to this huge number of touring musicians and that part of the industry who have really good fan bases, have that really good community behind them. And yeah, they're not on SNL. So that's okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So one of the reasons I thought that it would be really fun to do this podcast is because I think that at the core of what you do with artist management and the core of what we do here in the church is really similar because it's built around the live event. Like the live event is the lifeblood of building communities and developing those networks networks and keeping people connected. And so as we all sit here in this COVID world where I'm sure like me, you do millions of Zoom meetings every week and that kind of thing. How is that changing your industry and how are you kind of adapting with that?
It is, well, I mean, most of my, so it's changed pretty much everything about what we're doing because my artists make their money off of touring. They don't have big songs on the radio. They don't have big songs in, Subaru commercials. So their money all comes from concerts, performances, and then selling the merchandise at the concerts. Like that, those are the two things. Those are like the two hugest, the two biggest revenue generators for them, for sure. So with touring, with in-person shows being almost impossible right now, with the exception of the quickly invented drive-in concert or, big lawn kind of like spaced out things that you might have seen, no one's doing anything inside right now. Concerts can't happen inside, and that is a huge place where they happen.
Yep.
So that, and then those artists touring, making new music and putting it out is how they make money. Making that music happens with a producer. The 3 producers on my roster aren't doing anything because no one's going into their studios to record. And no labels are putting artists on tour. Even, there are small labels. There's not just the massive Warner, Universal, Sony, all. No labels are putting money into making records right now because they don't know when they can send those artists out on the road to recoup that to get, not to recoup, that's not how they recoup, but to get that record sold, like that's not happening.
Right.
So effectively, there's no work out there for people right now. You have to kind of and that was like a huge, I remember the day that South by Southwest got canceled. Realizing that South by Southwest was getting canceled was like, oh, this is going to be a big thing.
Yeah.
And in that moment, sorry, my hats are being crossed right now, working and putting the pants back on the potty trained 3-year-old.
Nice.
Okay, go play. I love you very much. Okay, go play with your brothers. So in that moment, I remember that being like ooh, I think this is not really just this isn't going to just be when it started off, it was like, everyone stay home for 2 weeks.
Right.
2 weeks was sort of like, we just got to stay in for a couple weeks, maybe a little longer, see how it goes.
Right.
And here in New England, generally, everyone was pretty much on board with that up here. There wasn't this sort of like denier mentality of,
right,
oh, this, this isn't a real big issue. This will blow over. I don't have to wear a mask. Everyone up here was like, boop, pop their masks on, staying in their house, washing their grocery bags. Like no one was outside. We live in a neighborhood packed with kids. No one was outside. Everyone was in their backyards. We just didn't do anything. And the hope was that everyone was doing that same thing, and that all the tours that were booked for the spring immediately got moved to, so if you had shows in March, you're not going to do them in March. Let's move them to June, because we'll probably be back up and running by then. And we didn't even clear our decks for my touring artists who had stuff in March, April. That stuff got moved. Nothing, everything else, like all the June, the summer, we're going to be back up and running. It's going to be, don't even worry about it. But there's been this perpetual, kicking the can just a little bit down the road many times. And then in late May, it was kind of like, summer's done. Like no one's doing anything. When all the festivals were going away, it was like, okay, well, but those are huge, many thousands of people, tens of thousands of people from all over the world coming into one place. It makes sense those are going away. But maybe the, street fairs with their several hundred people, maybe those can still happen. And those were going away. And it was just this kind of like rolling snowball that kept getting bigger of cancellations and, all of that. So it was the beginning of this was really, there's still uncertainty. No part of this ever there was no clear path forward. There never has been. It's always been like, I don't know. We'll see if we're up and running by then. There's no like date. There's no deadline. There's no actual end to this tunnel that we see. And so we've had to, Stephen Kellogg, who you were talking about earlier, who is my most active client by far, we had an entire tour booked from mid-April through early June for the release of his upcoming book. It was like a pre-book release tour where he was going to be doing readings and playing some songs and taking requests, all in tiny, non-traditional, not tiny, but small, non-traditional locations. I think I had talked to you about using, we did some churches were booked on the tour. We had a church in Philadelphia that we were renting. I went ahead and rented all these spots because we wanted to do something where we didn't want to go into music venues because we didn't want people to think this was going to be a concert, like a straight up concert. We wanted it to seem like a different kind of night. We also wanted to have control over when these things started. We wanted them to be early. We wanted people to be able to get home early. We wanted to have like a BYOB, like what kind of night as a, late 30s, early 40s and older grown up, what kind of night out would I want to have?
Right.
Not standing on my feet all night. I want to go sit in a place, maybe BYOB, maybe with some girlfriends, maybe with my husband, and take in a cool evening of entertainment. Like that's what we created for this tour. We were so excited about it. We had some bookstores, we had some distilleries and breweries, we had some art galleries, we had some churches, and all these like community hubs, any place that was like a cool, in Columbus, we were looking at $2 Wild Goose, but also the $2.
Oh yeah, $2 Radio Club.
Yeah. $2 radio.
Great.
Yeah. So, but like these places that are culturally, there's like, this is where stuff is happening. So let's bring something cool that's happening there that is non-traditional. Let's bring our thing there too. And we were psyched about it. We also had ticketed it ourselves. So through Stephen's online store, we sold all the tickets. We rented the places and sold all the tickets. So in a traditional tour, if he was just doing a tour of venues, that would have been up in smoke. Income totally gone, decimated. Because in that case, you have, say it was a 30-date tour, you have 30 different promoters holding the advanced ticket sales money for that whole tour. You know what I mean? In this case, we sold it. We are holding many tens of thousands of dollars of money that we're living off. I'm commissioning off it. We put the thing on sale in January, February, March. We have all these sales, all this money, and we didn't want to give a single ticket back. We wanted to keep that would have been crippling to have to do that, so we had to come up with a way to deliver an intimate, high quality experience that didn't warrant any kind of refund. Like, how do we deliver something? We had curated an experience that was so cool.
Right.
How do we deliver that and not just become another cancellation or like postponement on someone's calendar. If you're a music fan, your entire social scene was gone.
Yeah,
Almost
disappeared.
overnight. Like nothing. You're like, oh, I'm not gonna be able to go to this show. Now I can't go to this festival, like everything. You're just like, no, and you have to stay inside. It was like, oh, we have to. And one of the things that Stephen is so good at is like that connection, you know, the making the getting, he like knows how to get into where you're at. And he can speak to everyone in the room in a show. And I think, and you've been at many of his shows, and I think you have felt that before. He plays his songs and tells his stories, and you feel like you've had those same experiences. Like there is a connection there. And we had, I mean, the excitement and trust of all these fans, thousands across the country, that we could not let them down. We had to come up with a way to still deliver this. And he's also like a never give up kind of guy. Not that people who had to cancel their tours are quitters.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we had created this experience. We had created this cool experience, and how can we still deliver that? Like, we don't want to just walk away from our people. So we found a tech person to help us like make sure that we could deliver something that was reliable and that looked good and sounded good, and that also was delivered in a way where you felt like it was worth paying for. Because the other thing that people were seeing, and I think I've maybe gone way off what you actually asked me, but here we go, is that many musicians saw this opportunity to just, well, I can't play anywhere and I'm in my apartment, so I'm just going to put up my PayPal and my Venmo, and I'm going to go on Facebook and go live and collect donations, you know, almost like digital busking.
Right.
Like, that was the order of the day overnight. Everyone started doing it to make money, but to also bring people who are sitting at all these fans sitting in their house by themselves, to bring them something cool, to be a positive, like something positive in their day, especially for folks who were quarantining by themselves.
Yeah.
And that just seemed like, you know, I can complain about my situation of just like, oh, can I just do anything by myself? But that's quickly, you know, I could not be in a situation where I was spending 6 months in my apartment by myself, especially in an apartment where you don't have immediate safe access to a green space to just like get some fresh air, walk around. I think of my sister-in-law who's in Manhattan in a studio apartment, and she like, you know, she suits up to go out for walks, especially in New York City when it was really bad. She would just totally suit up, mask, like hoodie, suit up and go out for her walks, not touch anything, listen to an audiobook and walk around for a few hours just to get some fresh air, and then go back into her apartment and not interact with anyone or do anything. And so to have this ability, this opportunity in time to connect with people who are very much alone or scared or broke because they've lost their job, like that felt like something Stephen was totally up for and made for in a way. So we spent that whole first month was like, shoot, we have to come up with something that we feel really, really good about.
Right. Absolutely. Because I remember when March hit, like you were saying, I thought this was gonna be like 2 or 3 weeks. For us, it was 3 weeks before Easter. So I'm like, okay, I can generate my kind of Lent content. I can do my Easter content.
Yeah.
And then, you know, April comes and goes. And then I'm like, all right, well, the Band-Aid that we just put on it for the past 3 months suddenly needs to become a much bigger thing.
Totally, like a full cast.
Yeah, exactly. And so for us, you know, it's like, okay, well, we're trying to have this church experience, but we're all in different rooms. There's no organ, there's no hymn book. And if you've ever tried to do a responsive reading with 40 people on Zoom, it is just the worst.
It is the worst.
And so every week was like, okay, what can I do to create a more dynamic reality? And what can I do as a one-man show on all levels to teach myself enough about building podcasts or doing Zoom things, or, like, it's not even reinventing the wheel, it's building the wheel from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that at this point in time, I mean, I had the opportunity, I caught one of Stephen's shows a few nights ago, and it looked really good. Are you where you want to be in terms of kind of like that IT reality, or are you guys always trying to redevelop and engage in new ways?
I would say we've done about probably 50 of these now. The one that you saw Saturday night, I'm not sure it will get better in terms of the audio and the video quality. Like, those two things seem like we're good. It looks great, sounds great, like, cool, good. That's what you want. And the other piece that you missed out on is if someone had bought a meet and greet ticket, then they get a link 30 minutes before the doors open. They come into a private Zoom with Stephen that's moderated by our tour manager, and they get to go around the room. She like runs it, but he's there, and up to, I think we cap it at like 25 just to keep it reasonable and like intimate. Goes around the room, and everyone gets to like ask a question, say something, have a little chat with him. There's a group photo opportunity, everyone on one screen. We take a picture, we put it in a cool digital frame and send it to everybody, so they get like a little keepsake, from it. Even though it's digital, it's still like you get this thing, you get to do this thing and connect with him and have your own moment with him. So that feels good, and then the audio and visual of the actual concert feel good.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing we're always trying to improve, or that we feel like we get it worked out, and then you just can't account for the human error. Like, we want to make, there is a little room for improvement in the actual kind of structure to it, like the link. We email out to all the ticket buyers. We have staff who emails out your link and your unique watch code, because you can't just put it up, and you have to protect the commodity in some way. So there has to be a gate to it in some capacity that ticket buyers have to enter through. There has to be like a password or something that they at a certain time they go there and they get in, and then everything's happening. There's during the doors period where 30 minutes before the show the doors are open, you're putting in requests, asking questions and putting in requests that all get written down, and then they get delivered to Stephen, and he's able to look through and like, okay, cool, people want to hear this. Like, there is that interaction. But to get people actually into that place, for most people, vast majority, no issues. They get a link, they get a code, they enter it correctly, they're in, they love it. There's always, and then, so anyone who has an issue getting in, if it's not smooth, there's two categories. They email us, my code doesn't seem to be working. We work through it with them, they get in, they're super happy and appreciative. Mm-hmm. Then there's another group of those people who hit a roadblock on their way in, where they either don't let us know, or they just can't do it. They just can't figure it out. For those, and then we have a direct link, like a private watch link that we can send them, where it just ends up looking like a YouTube face with no chat function. It's just like, this is how you can just watch the show. You're not on our watch page. You don't have that interaction with the other fans of being able to chat or whatever, but you can watch it. You can watch it live. You can see it. We give them that, but there's this little group of people whose experience was somehow marred, and they're just mad about it, and they can't quite, they see it as a failure of the entire thing, and they just can't really get over it, and there's no way through with that, then they're just upset, and then we end up getting emails about how we didn't do a good job, and sorry, I'm going to try to get out of the sun. We get emails about how we didn't do a great job, and we should have paid more attention, and we didn't, that's where I find I want to reduce that as much as I can.
Right.
I want to reach the people who feel like we failed them in some way, instead of going to sleep patting ourselves on the back that we reached 90% or 95% of the people properly, adequately. They're psyched. How much can we improve upon that little, it's probably not even 5%, but still, that just how do we fix it for that group so they don't feel burned by this experience? We're trying, because when you add technology to the mix, you're just, I don't know, you're adding this layer of frustration for some people that just gets in the way of them enjoying what's happening. And I think you're going to see that across in any field that has to use this to make that connection.
Oh, absolutely. And as you were talking, I started thinking about all of the experiences that are part of going to a show, other than just watching the musician play. You get your ticket in the mail, you stand in front of the venue, you stand after doors, the PA is playing, that anticipation, you run into your friends who you either have come with or from going to shows.
Totally.
You get your selfie with the person on stage, all these kind of things.
I know. Yep.
And so it's, how do we recreate every part of it? Same thing on a Sunday morning, whether it's you're having coffee and donuts or going to a Bible study, and then you're connecting, and then you're in worship. And so I talk to other pastors about this all the time, where if all we're doing is recording and showing the 55-minute worship part of that, you're really missing so much of that experience.
For sure. Yeah. And and how do you make up for that? How do you, for so many fans, and I would say so many members of your congregation, that's a huge part of it. That's it's almost like a 50-50 or a 75-25. It's not an insignificant piece that you're leaving out there. You don't just want to go see the singer sing the song that's going to let you leave there refreshed. That's part of it. That's huge. Yep. That's why you bought your ticket. And I think that there's a huge similarity in what the viewer, what the member of the congregation, and what the concert goer, what they're there for, and how they leave feeling. Mm-hmm. Those are huge. There's huge similarities between what we're doing. What you go for, and on your way out, this feeling of all right, I'm ready to take on, I feel refreshed, I'm ready to take on my week or the rest of my, I feel so good right now because of what I just got in there. But so much of that experience is also baked into interacting with the other members of the congregation, or having that one-on-one time with you. And one thing I want to ask you, although I'm not flipping this interview around, is how have you, I would imagine if you going to church or a concert with a need, with this hole, with this feeling of something is not right in here and I need some help with it, and you see the concert and you listen to the sermon or the worship, and it's great, but you just want to ask that question. Like you want to wait by the bus to talk to the artist on their way out, because you just have to let them know this one thing, or they just want to pull you aside for a minute afterward to be like, that thing you said, or that really helped me deal with this one thing, or I still have a question for you, or I'm still not complete. How have you, I know how we have handled that, but how have you handled that with the other people?
So the good news is through all of the pandemic stuff, we were talking about getting out of the house, especially during quarantine. I would come into the church because I was the only person here, right?
Yeah.
So it was a safe place. And ever since March, we adjusted the office hours, but I always tell people, I'm like, shoot me an email, call me at the office, because like we all do, I check my voicemail every hour to make sure that people feel supported in that way.
Yeah.
The first time we did church on Zoom, I run a tight schedule, and I was like, all right, we're going to do church at 10. And right, so all these people start showing up on the Zoom link at 9:45 or so. And they all start talking, and this is for a lot of them, it was the first time they had seen one another in 5 weeks, 6 weeks. And me being me, I almost jumped the gun. I was like, all right, let's start doing the thing we're going to do. But then I caught myself, and I don't think we started till 10:10, 10:15, because I realized that community building was all happening in just this wide open Zoom call with like 40 people.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of been the two ways that I've been facilitating that the past couple months is, all of our, everywhere typed, it says worship starts at 10. I never start till 10:10. And there are people who get on at 9:50 and need that 20 minutes. And I'm on, like I'm sitting there. So I have people who say, hey, can I give you a call? Can I drop by? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Because again, it's making that accessibility.
Yeah.
Because that accessibility and the humanity behind it is so imperative in this time when we all feel so isolated.
For sure.
Definitely.
That's cool. Yeah, that's like a thing that you don't, I mean, that's just where so much of the recharge comes from, or the repairing, or whatever it is that the person needs. So much of it comes from not being able to just put on your favorite record, or read your favorite passage, or even replay a sermon, but so much comes from like just that one-on-one, that little bit of attention, or that like little bit of personal connection that they really need. That's cool that you've been able to do that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, and we're all figuring it out, right? We're still all figuring it out, and
Sure.
I think that as a member of both the church world and the concert going world, I think there's a lot of grace for those of us in those two communities, because we want to figure out how to make it happen, and we all know we're just stumbling around in the dark on this. I mean, it's like you were saying earlier, this isn't a 2-week thing, and there's no period. There's a vague ellipsis.
Yeah.
I'll tell you one of the really weird things for me, and you and I were talking right before we started recording this, is as somebody who writes that sermon every week, so here's 10 to 15 minutes of content I memorize it. There's that live assembly there. And, you're putting on the show, you land a joke, it lands, if you're telling a sad story, you can kind of take that temperature in the room.
Yeah.
And now I'm sitting in an empty sanctuary on the computer, and there's like a 2-second delay on everybody, and they're all muted anyway, so I can't really hear anything. And it's like yelling down a hallway. Like it feels like I'm yelling down a hallway, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When part of the live event, whether that's worship or a show, it's that dialogue between the performer and the audience.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, like with the artist you manage, like what is that conversation like, or how have they been adapting or changing to this kind of, silo effect that we all are in, who are public orators, for lack of a better phrase?
Yeah. Well, I would say one thing One thing that has become, it's always been important to Stephen Kellogg. He's the one who's actually successfully really doing this right now. One thing, there are a few things he does during a show. He has, there are a few moments where he calls on, he does solicit, what do you want to hear? Like solicit requests. He also, not the night that you watched, but because he has just put out a book, some nights he does request a song and then pick a chapter. And his book is a collection of 13 essays and about, there's like friendship and marriage and work and time and health and legacy and heroes and sense of humor. So you put in your vote. I'd like to hear about, whatever, friendship chapter, kids or parents or whatever. And then he'll see, oh, okay, it looks like, I don't know, 80% of you want to hear about this tonight. I'll talk about forgiveness. That's one that has been really awesome, actually. He'll talk about, he'll take the temperature that way ahead of time, like gather, and that happens through staff. His tour manager is watching the chat and she's interacting with people during the 30 minutes before the show. And then she relays all the information to, it's actually his wife who generally runs the stream. She's the one behind controlling the computers and making sure everything's on and hitting go and, clicking all the different things that have to happen. She's doing that job. So our tour manager is texting her, here's the list of all the songs that got requested and here are all the chapters they want to hear. And she's writing it out and handing it to Stephen. So it's kind of, it's technology meets old school pen and paper. Like, it's sort of, he's not seeing the feed in any real time. He has a camera that he is looking at, which are his viewers. He's got it. He's looking at them. And because he's just had the meet and greet, he has a sense of some of the people who are going to be there. So he can imagine, like, there's this family, they just got together for the first time in 5 months, or this couple just had a baby, they're home from the hospital with their new baby and they're tuning in. Like, he kind of knows who he's playing to. And so he's able to sort of like put the show out there, put out what he thinks they need. And there's always a few moments in the show too where he'll like walk up to the camera and be like, I'm with you, here I am, like, we're connecting, we're doing this thing together. He has said that he can feel, the first couple times he did it, he was like, this is wild. No one's reacting to my stories, but also no one's like, I don't see the person who's like, there's some good things to that, because he doesn't hear the one annoying dude in the back of the theater. He doesn't hear people's phones going off. He doesn't look down and see the like husband who's not into the show, who's just there with his wife, who's like on his phone. He doesn't have to take in any of that, but he also loses out on knowing if the jokes land, kind of. I mean, that's really the thing you want to know. The temperature you want to take is like, that was funny, right? Or like, this was sweet, right? I can tell I'm getting or the laugh, like, so I know he is missing that, but I think that he has surprised himself with, he kind of gets it, it's like a little delayed. He puts on a good show, and immediately after on Facebook, Instagram, emails, Twitter, he hears from people who are like, here's a picture of me crying, or here's me and my dog sitting on the couch. I needed this so much. You have no idea how helpful this was for me. Yeah. And he gets all that. And that's how he's like, okay, I'm connecting with people. I'm, not to put too fine a point on it, but I'm saving lives. Like, some people are like, I am so depressed. This is my only interaction. I need this so badly. And you're making me feel hopeful for the future. That's like, you can't really understate that. That's huge that you're able to bring that to people right now in a time with so much uncertainty, that you're able to bring a little hope there. And that feels like, that's kind of the thing that's getting us out of bed right now. And that's what he he's holding that in the back of his head as he's delivering these shows at a webcam.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and that's kind of, that's sort of what we've done to do that, to kind of like make that connection or bridge the gap between authentic in-person actual connection versus canned recorded video that you can just watch on your computer. Like we're kind of melding anyway.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense because there has to be, I mean, if done well, there has to be that connection there, because and you and I were talking about this before we recorded, but I thought you made a great point. When you're watching like a YouTube clip of a live show or a DVD of your favorite concert tour, whatever it is, you said, and I think this is brilliant, what you're watching is the interaction between the musician and the audience, and you're kind of this third party watching it.
Yeah.
But to do a virtual show, you know, you are the audience, but the audience has like physically changed in just crazy ways.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're not watching that connection happen. You are the receiver of that connection. So it's, how do we make that happen?
Yeah.
Mama,
Yeah. I'm
Mama,
sorry. Yes.
Mama,
Do you see I'm doing some work. You want me to cuddle you? Upstairs. Can you say hi to Pastor Hilly?
Hi.
Yeah, I can cuddle you after I finish up this interview. Do you want to sit on my lap while I finish it? Yeah. No. Why don't you wait for me in the living room? Okay. Why don't you sit next to me? Why don't you sit on my lap? Can you go sit on Dad's lap? Why is your nose running? We haven't seen other humans. Do you have a cold? How's that happening? I'm going to keep talking. Just for a little bit. A few more minutes. Yeah, and then I'll be done. No. How about yes? Yes. So weird. You don't have kids. Look what you're missing out on.
I know, man. Look at that. I mean, this is why I'm in the church doing this and not at home, because otherwise Winston would be right here, my dog, and Biscuit, the other one. I get it. I
Yeah. It's a tricky thing. Well, why don't you just stand here and I'll finish talking. Here, you sit right here. Okay. Here, what do you, here, if you turn around, then you can't see it. Oh, there you go. Okay. So, what were we, oh yeah, you were saying how the audience has actually, you be quiet for a minute. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have a shirt under this. I can't take it off. I don't have this. This is my shirt.
Take off. This. Take off. Take off.
I can't. You can't. It would be very inappropriate. Yeah. And yeah, we were talking about that, how that you need to, that you can't, it's not there's no way to feel a connection to something if you're just watching it happen from the side,
right,
or from above, or from a different camera angle, or you're watching an artist interact with an existing audience. There's no way to maintain a connection there. But I think that you have created, and we are creating, ways for there to be meaningful connection in this virtual space for the important work that you're doing to keep going, and that we're doing to keep our lights on, you know.
Yeah. Do you think that when all of this kind of reaches its conclusion, that the fan base is going to be ready or reticent to come back into clubs?
I would say, okay, go for it. I would say they're going to be, I can tell you from a little bit of experience that they're going to be pretty reticent to come back. And that, or I would say it actually depends on the environment. So, and I say that for a couple reasons. One is we've done successfully some outdoor shows that have worked well. A drive-in show, another, these were all sort of like almost benefits for venues that we really like. So like where we would do an outdoor, on the lawn, spaced out, kind of taped off on the ground, like pod, the fans are all way back away from the stage. Those things people are excited to come to. They're outside, they feel safe because they're outside and they're in control of who they interact with,
Right.
They are in the driver's seat, so to speak, of like, sometimes literally if it's a drive-in show, they could just sit in their car and hear the concert, those people are excited about. We've had a couple opportunities, actually one opportunity to play indoors in a place in Maine. Stephen did an indoor show where they reduced the capacity to only 50 people. And this is a place that holds a few hundred.
Yeah.
50 people, tape and arrows on the floor to show which way to go, separate bathrooms for everything, like plenty of space. But no one, it was those 50 tickets, and we did 2 of them back to back. They weren't as easy a sell as we thought they were going to be. They didn't just fly. People want their live music back, but they're still scared.
Yeah.
They're still uncomfortable in an enclosed space. I think you also see it around here anyway. Restaurants are doing outdoor patio stuff. Even if they don't have a patio, they have generated some land outside of their place where they have made it clear this is where you can eat. And that stuff is, people dig it. They will go there and do that. Any places that offer indoor dining right now, no one's feeling good about it. And I think that it's a similar, like, you want to get back to it, you miss that, but not at the expense of, not at the cost of like your health, your life, like none of that is worth it. So this is a big question. And I think the reason that we keep putting our energy into making this virtual experience all it can be is because we don't know when most people are going to feel safe. I'm sure we could find people somewhere who would say, I'll go to a concert inside. I don't feel bad about that. That's fine. That's not the majority of people. Right. And you can tell because venues are not even allowed to have people in them right now. Right. Most venues in the country cannot open their doors. So there's nowhere, even if we wanted to put together a tour of indoor in-person concerts, we couldn't do it right now. We couldn't, no place is saying, oh yeah, let us open our doors for you. They can't operate. So, so I think if we were just now getting into the warmer weather, that I think we'd be talking about something different, but going into the colder weather and going indoors, I don't know. I think it's not going to be till next summer or late spring that you see things happening again. And I mean, maybe March of 2021, I don't know, but it's still like it.
Because I mean, there's so many other things tied up in that, right? Like as they look for a vaccine or that sort of thing. And then what are those cultural rituals that we're going to create within our society to get people to trust the sense of safety? Yeah. Once again, because we don't have that right now. I don't believe that there's a nationwide feeling of comfort and safety.
Yeah, no, there's not. There's definitely not right now. And I think that once we are able to safely have indoor performances again, or just indoor anything, period, you know, when places are able to be open safely, I still think there's gonna be, I mean, lasting effects from this for years, because I think that, you know, people are gonna, I don't think masks are going anywhere. I think that you're gonna see people wearing them for a very long time. And I also think, you know, just the sort of like, I don't know, I feel like there's gonna be a shift in like bathrooms, hand washing, lines, spacing, like giving people, not crowding into things, reduce capacity for a while on places. Like I think that that's going to be normal. I think that you know, contactless is a term that is huge right now. You know, contactless pickup, contactless delivery, contactless ordering. I feel like that's going to be a word that is going to stick in your mind, and we're going to keep using in terms of like how services are done and rendered in person, you know, like contactless bars or whatever you think of as like in a large concert or social setting, a big, you know, a festival or a fair or something like that. I think there's going to be this era of like contactless, like swiping, no touching, all wrapped up and packaged, nothing's been handled, here you go, here's your stuff, it's safe, we didn't breathe on it type of thing. I feel like that's going to be just the order of the day for a while, until people feel good about other people again.
Right. Which, I mean, as the mother of a number of children, has this radically changed every birthday party from now on? Will we ever be able to blow out candles?
That's a really good question. And my children don't like parties. They don't like birthday parties yet. They're not like, I mean, I say yet, but when they're when Guthrie, my oldest, who's gonna be 8 soon, when he's invited to a birthday party, he's like, are there gonna be other kids there? Yeah, there's gonna be other kids there. It's a birthday party. He's like, ugh. So for his own birthday, he just wants to go to a movie with his parents and have us take him to the Lego store to get a new Lego set. Like that, to him, that is like my birthday.
Yeah.
That's what he wants. And then to have some cake here in our dining room, like his own homemade ice cream cake with a candle on it that he blows out in the company of his family. Yeah. But, you know, in the larger, you know, I don't know when I'm sort of relieved, because that whole like buying a gift and sending him off to a bunch of, when he comes back and he's like, the pizza was terrible and it was loud and I didn't want to do the games and dance. He's like not a fun kid. But you know, for kids who want to be the center of attention and want to have all their friends over, I don't know when that's going to be a thing again. I think that the idea of a small and intimate guest list is going to be the name of the game in many ways for a while.
That's actually one of the really big issues with the church right now, right? Because again, the physical space, the sanctuary, the building. Sure. So our sanctuary holds, our maximum occupancy is 284 people.
Yeah.
Which, if I measure 6 feet out, yada, 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 and all the way, I can hold 24.
Oh my God.
Which is fair enough. 24 individuals, which would be 48 couples, or if there was a family of 5, they could take up a whole pew, right? So you have some flexibility in that math that still makes sure you're 6 feet from everybody. It's just a really bad look for the church if the church is like, all right, welcome to church, no visitors, you have to sign up, you know, if we don't know who you are, we're going to ask you to leave. Like, that's so counterintuitive.
Not very churchy.
No, yeah, it's counterintuitive. It's the entire philosophy of, you know, everybody is welcome and like, let's be cool. And so I think that this intimate gatherings, you're going to see a lot more of. I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, at least on my side of the aisle, of how we do things. Because again, like you want to build those connections. You want people to have that community, but you want it to be done safely.
Yeah.
Because safety is the primo concern for all of us,
Yep. Totally. Not worth the risk.
No.
Yeah, I know. I wish you luck.
I appreciate it. Well, hey, Jessica, I feel like I've taken a lot of your time. I want to thank you so much for being part of this. Give us a couple plugs. If people want to find out more about the Artist of Marionette Management and things you're doing, where should we send them?
You should send them to marionettemanagement.com. Marionette MGMT, management is abbreviated.
Okay.
marionettemgmt.com. And if you want to interact and see one of these shows that we're working so hard to put on for Stephen Kellogg, you can go to stephenkellogg.com. And if you wanted to check out his new book, you can do that there. And all of that benefits the entire roster of Marionette Management and keeps the lights on if you do any of that stuff. So
nice. So I'll put both those links in the description below this video. And yeah, those Stephen Kellogg shows are great. I mean, I was A, watching the show as a fan, B, nervous that he could see me eating dinner.
Nope.
All right, good. And third, I again, like as a person who exists in this online interaction performance world, I'm like taking notes. I'm like, all right, he's doing that really well. This is a really good thing.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. So, hey, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah.